advice. And I'm going to give an example. There was a time I went to see a doctor, because yes, even us doctors have to see doctors too. Um, it was an ophthalmologist anyway. And then the doctor was asking me about my blood pressure at the time. I was like, yeah, at some point in time it went up, and the doctor asked, okay, I hope you are exercising and all that. And then I said, well, I tried, I tried to exercise. And then the doctor just said, oh, well, okay, just make sure you exercise. It's very important. As I was leaving the doctor's office, I started to ask myself, okay, if I want to exercise now, what exercise am I supposed to do? Do I just go and start jogging? Do I just go for a gym membership where they start giving me weights that, might break my back or something like that? Like, where do I start? And that was one of the reasons why I thought about it, that while there is the general advice out there, do this, do that, you know, people rarely, doctors, if I may say so, a lot of doctors rarely take the time to properly break it down and tell you how to actually apply this. And that's where I decided that, okay, I would start the health support community and also start helping to give people advice on specific steps, not just the general things, now specific steps that they can take. And so today we're talking about reinvigorating the golden years, a new frontier to age-less vitality. And the whole idea behind this is the golden years, seniors, oftentimes it's looked at as, a point where, everything just slows down, and then there's a higher risk of falling sick and getting injured and things like that. But there are things that people need to do or people can do to maximize, to enjoy, the beauty of health, even as seniors. Okay, I think I was muted for a while. Okay, so there are things that we can enjoy, even as we get to those older years, we get elderly, that will still preserve our health. And that's what we'll be talking about. Things that we can do to maintain that sense of wellness, that sense of still feeling healthy and strong. There's no rule that says because someone gets to 60, 65, 70, then the person must, always feel sick or, have struggles, in doing basic things. Um, so let's just go into the next slide. And I think as we speak, you get a better picture of what I'm trying to talk about. Okay, next slide. All right, so I'll start by asking popular question, what is health? And everybody's going to think about the general definitions. Some people would say health is, feeling okay physically, mentally, emotionally. In fact, some people might even add financially, and I won't argue with that because feeling okay financially will definitely have an impact on your health. When you're not thinking about bills to pay or thinking about house rent, yeah, your blood pressure will be down. Once you start thinking about all those issues, financial issues, your blood pressure will start going up. So yes, I would add, being stable financially, you know. So these are the general things we think about when we hear health. And these things are very factual, right? That's what WHO will tell you. That's what CDC will tell you. You go for a medical check. Your doctor will tell you, oh yes, your blood pressure is this, that, and all that. However, I want us to look at it in a different way. What is health to you right now? That's the question that you need to answer. What is health to you right now? Someone once said something very interesting. The person said, fitness for a 90-year-old is to be able to go to the toilet and clean your bum by yourself without any assistance. And I just wanted to take some time, just a few seconds, to picture that. For a 90-year-old, going to the toilet and being able to clean up and wash up, it's not as simple as it sounds. Now, of course, when you're much younger, it's not a big deal. But when you keep this in mind, you start to realize that health is not just something that is fixed. You know, you must be bouncing all the time, or you must not be sick. It goes a bit beyond that. What are the things that you should be able to do at this stage? I'll give you another example. Has anyone ever tried to play with a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old? Or even, what am I saying, even the 3-year-olds, with the way they are running around? Have you ever tried to keep up with them? You realize that you can't. You cannot keep up with those kids when they are playing. If you have any niece or nephew, just try running around with them. Now, the fact that you can't keep up with them, does it mean you are unhealthy? No. It just means that what your definition of health is at this point in time must change. Okay? And that's a very important fact that people often miss. And then as they get older, people want to just rely on, oh, let me just, take my drugs, or I won't put in any effort. And they forget that if you don't do certain things that you are supposed to do, you start to lose the capacity. And it's important that you understand it. You start to lose the ability to do these things as time goes on. Let's go on to the next slide so I can show you what I mean. You realize that as much as we say health is a state of wellness, right? Yes, it's a state of wellness, but it is maintained through adaptive behaviors. In other words, there are things that you need to do to maintain that state of wellness. Why? Because there are consistent biological changes. Remember what I said about the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds? Of course, when you were young like that, you could run around, you could play and jump out, all that. You could run up the staircase 5 times, 10 times.
Recording in progress.
You could run up a staircase 5 times or 10 times, and you're still fine. But as biological changes happen, you realize that those things are not so easy anymore. It does not mean that you are unhealthy. It means that you now need to start getting new behaviors. You need to start taking up adaptive behaviors to match up to the biological changes happening in your body. It's very important that you look at it that way. Okay? And that also helps you so that you don't give up, so to say, on wellness. You start to think, a lot of people start to think, I'm too old, though, I'm too old for all this, please, don't stress me. On the other extreme, we have a lot of people who now decide that no, I must remain young. And then they start taking it, up a lot of challenging exercises, trying to prove to themselves that they are still young. And that's how they end up with some injuries. So it's important that you have a balanced mindset to what your health is. What are the things you should be able to do right now, and can you do them? Okay? Can you take a walk by yourself? Can you, climb up the staircase without feeling like you're about to pass out? Can you do, minor things around the home without any assistance? These are the things that will start to redefine your health. And it's important that you note that if you don't take up the activities, or you don't take up the adaptive behaviors to maintain the simple things you should be able to do, I promise you, even in the near future, those simple things will start to get difficult. Remember, like I said, for a 90-year-old, health is being able to go to the restroom and clean up by yourself. Don't be surprised if you don't take up adaptive behaviors. By the time someone gets to 90, able to go to the toilet, not that there's anything wrong with the person, not that there's any serious medical condition, but just because the person didn't do certain things that they should have been doing as they started getting older. So it's important that we understand this approach. Next slide, please. And so the question now becomes, how do we maintain wellness? What are the things we are supposed to do? Next slide. And we're going to start with the basics, things that everybody knows, okay? So the step one, the summary of your step one is know your current state of health. All right? You imagine you are in an area, you don't even know where you are. but you are thinking of how to get to Abuja. You are in a place you don't know where you are, but you are thinking of how to get somewhere else. You would first try to ask someone, you would first try to make some inquiry and ask, please, where am I? Where is this area? Then when you get information of where you are, you now say, okay, so how do I get to this place? Right? That's the same thing with your health. You need to know where you are right now. Step one to maintaining your health is knowing your current state of health. And it's the usual things, nothing new, nothing special. Blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, weight, and BMI. Okay, weight and BMI. Very, very important. You must know your BMI. PSA, mammogram for women, pap smear for women. You need to know all of this so that you know where you are. You know where you are starting from. You must know your numbers. If someone asks you on a random day, oh, what's your blood pressure? You might not know your blood pressure at that point in time, but you should be able to say, oh, my blood pressure is usually between this range and this range. And there are times I've seen patients who will tell me that, no, that blood pressure, it's not within my normal range. So they know. So it's easy for them to pick up when something is wrong. Okay, same thing for blood sugar and the rest. So know your current state of health. That's step one. That's if you don't know all this, you can take a picture of this, write it down, and then make it a point of duty to find out, you know, the numbers. You need to find out all of this as applies to you. Okay, that's your step one. Okay, next slide. So we can go to step two. Now, step two is now that you know your current state of health, what are your health goals? Identify your health goals. Okay, identify your health goals. So, if your blood pressure is high, your health goal is now to lower your blood pressure to the normal number that it should be. Okay, I don't want to go so deep into it because, of course, you're going to have conversations with your doctor and all that. But for your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your blood cholesterol, and all that, when you're seeing a doctor, if they tell you it's high, ask them, okay, what should the normal number be? And then you know, okay, this is your target. Same thing for your weight and your BMI. So if you know your BMI and it's high, which indicates obesity, then you can start to find out. I did something like that some months ago on the health support community where I help people calculate their BMI, and then of course your BMI is based on your weight and your height. So if your BMI is too high, it means your weight needs to come down. And then I was able to help them set a target, and this is something you can discuss with your doctor. So based on your BMI and what your BMI should be to remain healthy, we will now set a target for you in terms of how much weight you need to lose. So again, you'd say, oh, I'm trying to lose weight. What is your current weight? What's your BMI? And what is your target BMI? And what should that weight be? So you have an idea of how much weight you need to lose. And then you now set, goals based on that. Okay, I want to lose 2 kg per month. I want to lose 1 kg per month. You identify your health goals. Okay, what do you need to manage and what do you need to treat? So things you need to manage are things like I said, your weight, your blood pressure, cholesterol, and the like. What do you need to treat? Is there an infection you need to treat? Is there if the prostate is enlarged, what medications do you need to get? What procedures do you need to do? Identifying your health goals will help you know what to focus on. You don't just jump in with everybody who is doing exercise and then you say, oh yeah, this person is doing this, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do. The person has a different health goal. And you will see as we continue that the person who is trying to lose weight, the kind of exercise the person needs to do is quite different from the person who needs to control their blood pressure. Albeit the fact that it's the same exercise, but the way you do the exercise matters depending on your health goals. So you don't just copy and paste, just pick any exercise and start doing. No, no, no. You must identify your health goals, and then that will guide you on what steps you need to take. This is very crucial. It is subjective and it's only for you. At the very best, you might find someone who has a similar health goal. So maybe you are trying to lose weight, someone else is trying to lose weight. Okay, that's fair. But again, the amount of weight you are trying to lose matters. If someone is trying to lose just 10 kg and you are trying to lose 20 kg, then there will definitely be a difference in the approach, right? So it's largely a very, very subjective, personalized approach identifying your health goals. Next slide. And then once you have your health goals clearly spelled out, then you want to start your health journey. All right. Now, like I've said before, medical therapy, whatever it is that your test results showed and all that, you speak with your doctor, they will cover that. Doctors are, more or less very well very much interested in the medical side. Oh, if it's drugs and it's procedures, trust me, they have you covered. So have conversations with your doctor on the medical side. But then we now have general wellness principles. And this is usually where a lot of doctors either don't have the time, or they just forget. Um, they don't dwell much on this. And this is where we are going to dwell. All right. General wellness principles. Now, that said, it should be noted that your health journey would consist of both aspects, the medical one and your general wellness principles. One is not meant to replace the other. I often hear people say, oh, if I'm trying to control my blood pressure, can I just stop the drugs and, I'll make sure I rest. I'll make sure I sleep well. And I'm like, it doesn't exactly work like that. Okay, you don't just take one, throw it out, and then replace with another. Yes, there is a way to infuse both of them, and if one is effective enough, you might be able to step down the other, but there's no guarantee that you can just throw away anyone. And to add to that, in any scenario, because again, there are people who also believe that, oh well, I'm taking my blood pressure drugs, so I can just do whatever I want to do. I can, even if I'm stressing myself or taking alcohol or whatever it is that I should not be doing, because I'm taking my blood pressure drugs, then I'm fine. It doesn't work that way. Eventually, anything that disturbs your general wellness will reflect your um in your health, your overall health. Anything that disrupts, okay, anything that disrupts or is outside wellness principles will almost definitely affect your medical therapy. It will affect the results you get. You might be taking drugs, but if you are clear that general wellness principles must form the foundation of your health, whether or not there are drugs involved or whatever it is, okay, they must be the foundation. There is no scenario in which you just forget about general wellness and focus on medical therapy. It doesn't work that way. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So when we're talking about wellness principles, again, we're not trying to reinvent any wheel. We're not bringing something from another planet. It's the basics, things we know. But the question is how to use these basics. So of course, rest, diet, exercise, the usual, right? But now let's see what they entail. Next slide. Okay, so rest, diet, exercise. And we'll start with the first one, which is rest. Now, I don't know if anyone knows, the minimum amount of hours you should sleep per day is 7 hours. I can categorically tell you, if your blood pressure is high, if you are trying to lose weight, if your blood sugar is poorly controlled, and you are not sleeping 7 hours a day, you are literally making it difficult for you to achieve your health goals. You're trying to control your weight or your blood pressure, your blood sugar, and you are not sleeping up to 7 hours per day. You are making it more difficult for yourself to get results. There's a no-brainer. There are enough studies on the amount of sleep and how it impacts your general health. Okay, so for sleep, no negotiation. 7 hours per day minimum. Okay, typically between 7 to 9 hours. And it's important to also know that as you get older, the amount of sleep you get tends to reduce. Okay, there are a lot of possible reasons for that, but it is the reality. And so you now need to be intentional about protecting your sleep cycle. And protecting your sleep cycle, it involves picking the same time to sleep every night. You need to teach your brain when to sleep. Yes, you actually teach your brain. So if you sleep at 8 o'clock today, tomorrow you sleep at 10 o'clock, another time you sleep at 12 midnight, you are confusing the brain. And as you get older already, there's a possibility that your amount of sleep will decline. But now you've made it worse because you are sleeping at different hours, and so your brain does not even know when to sleep. and that affects the quality of your sleep. So the first thing, you must sleep at the same time every day. It's very, very crucial. Um, no noise, no light, um, in a cool environment. You stop using gadgets at least 45 minutes to 1 hour before you sleep. You put down your phone, you put off the television, and you're relaxing. That's not the time to be thinking about all the problems in life that are disturbing you. No, 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 no. You just relax your mind. You know, I would have said some people should pray, but it depends on the kind of prayer. So if you are going to be doing soft prayer, just like something calm, fine. You can bring in your prayer, maybe read your Bible or something. But if you are the type that you know that when you start, it's MFM, fire, fire, and then when you start praying that fire prayer, all the sleep will clear from your eye. Then you might not want to do that. So whatever it is that you can do to just clear your mind. Again, I would have recommended reading a book. Well, it depends on the book. If you start reading a book that is so interesting and then you stay up for the next 3-4 hours, again, you've defeated the purpose. So whatever it is to clear your mind, at least 45 minutes before the time you are expected to sleep. So if you are expected to sleep by 9 p.m., by 8:15, you have put up all the lights, put aside your gadgets, you found a quiet place, and then you are just relaxing and waiting for sleep to come. You train yourself to sleep. Then to add to that, rest is more than sleep. Identify stressors and be intentional. So as much as sleep is important, there is also rest. And rest largely just involves anything that stresses you. Identify them and find a solution as much as possible. A good example would be if you are trying to do a business and that business is stressing you. I'm not going to say you should throw the business away, but can you delegate? Can you find someone to do the brainstorming for you and let the person give you ideas instead of you racking your brain by yourself, right? So rest is identifying stressors and being intentional. Don't just say, the way we do it in Nigeria now, it is well. We talk about all the problems for like 2 hours. We can talk about problems. At the end of the 2 hours, we end it with it is well. God is in control. And then the same problem will come and disturb you tomorrow. No, that's not a good approach. When you identify them, be intentional. Okay, what am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about this? At least for the ones that you can do something about. Okay, disengage from work as much as possible. And it's important to know that the brain triggers dangerous responses to long-term stress. So when you don't rest, what you are basically telling your brain is keep on firing. And so the kind of chemicals that your brain would release that will help your body rest, that will help reset, recharge, and repair your body, the brain is not releasing those things. Yeah, so your brain is not releasing those things. Okay, and that is why at the end of the day you realize that the blood pressure starts to go up because you're just saying fire, fire, fire. That's all you're telling your brain because you are not resting. And your brain will continue to fire. Your heart rate is going, as high as possible. Your blood pressure is high. Your system is just consistently active. No rest. And of course, over a period of time, this starts to wear down your system. It wears down your body because there's no rest. A simple way to think about it is imagine you buy a car and you are driving it straight for 3 weeks. Brand new car, but you are driving it non-stop, no parking, nothing. You are just driving it straight for 3 weeks. That car will not last. In like a week, or in less than a month, that car will pack up. So imagine your body, right? So that's something to keep in mind. There are a number of other things here, but let's just move on to the next slide. The last thing I would like to talk about, I'll say about rest is not a luxury. Okay, it's not a luxury. It is a necessity. Okay, so keep that in mind. Next slide. Okay, now let's talk about diets, food. There are three things you need to keep in mind when it comes to food. Three things: what you must reduce, what you must restrict, and what you must avoid. I have intentionally separated them into these categories because you hear people saying, doctor said I should not eat this, I should not eat this, I should not eat this, I should not eat this. So what am I now going to eat? So it gets frustrating. That's why I've categorized them. Things you need to reduce. Oh, and then there's also a category of things you need to increase. So that you see that it's full. You must reduce fatty foods. Anything fried, you have to reduce it. Fried fish, fried meat, fried yam, fried egg, fried plantain, fried chicken, fried whatever it is that is fried, you have to reduce it. And then you have to reduce it as a category. So don't say yesterday I ate fried fish, so today I won't eat fried fish, today I eat fried meat, and tomorrow it's fried akara you eat. No, no, no. You are reducing fried foods generally, everything fried. Okay? Reducing red meats. It contains a lot of fat, which is not good. And then you generally want to reduce carbohydrates. Why? Because, well, carbohydrates are energy giving foods. As you get older, you're not running around anymore. Right? So you don't need too much energy. Too much energy will just be converted into fat. And that creates a problem. Okay? And you're now thinking about weight loss. Okay, so these are things you reduce. Again, emphasis, reduce. It's not an abomination, but reduce these things. Things you need to restrict. Junk food. I'm still surprised when I see elderly people drinking Fanta and Coke. I'm like, wow, right? I mean, it's for young. In fact, it's not just for young people. People I expect to see drinking Coke and Fanta are, those carpenters, you know, people that carry cement, because they are the ones actively burning it, or athletes. They are the ones who can burn that energy. But for every other person, you must restrict it as much as possible. If you're going to take a drink, if you're going to take junk food, cake, snacks, it has to be that maybe you went for a party and the last party you went for was like 7 months ago. Then in this party, they decided to share cake and coke and you decided to drink. Maybe that's what we call restricting. Something you take like once in 6 months or 5 months, you must restrict it. Okay, anything that is not natural, processed food, even canned food that are processed, you must canned foods rather, they are processed, so you need to reduce them. um and then the things to avoid completely: alcohol, tobacco, and all forms of smoking. Okay, avoid completely. There's no these are the ones that we call the abomination. You don't take them at all. It's completely out of it. No negotiation. Okay, next slide, and we'll now talk about things to increase. So what are the things that we can increase? Vegetables and fruits. In fact, just go wild on vegetables and fruits. They increase your digestion, come with a lot of vitamins and minerals. They help you feel fuller and all that. Like, so many benefits of vegetables and fruits. So feel free to increase this. Protein, all right. Now for protein, I must add, it's not fried, preferably boiled. Okay, so you have your fish, your chicken meat. So we said you should reduce animal meat. That's red meat, right? That's things like goat meat, like cow meat and all that, normal beef. So what you want to replace that with is chicken. Okay, chicken breast preferably. Remove the skin. Everybody already knows that. Okay, and then eat balanced diet. To add to that, water. The amount of water you should take per day: 4 to 5 sachets of water, or 3 to 4 bottles of water daily. So at the very worst, you take 1 bottle in the morning, 1 bottle in the afternoon, 1 bottle at night. You are doing fairly okay. You cannot decide to add one afterwards. Okay, so that's the amount of water you should take. Next slide. Okay, now let's talk about exercise. I don't need to speak too much on the benefits of exercise. Controls blood pressure, controls blood sugar, protects the heart, improves your mood, it helps you lose weight, and sitting, not doing exercise, or sedentary lifestyle puts you at risk of so many problems. So even if you are perfectly healthy, you don't have any issues, the fact that you decided to not carry out physical activities alone, just that you are not exercising, puts you at risk of a lot of diseases. Okay, chronic illnesses. So I will leave it at that. Next slide. Now, there are general principles around exercise. First of all, the standard amount of exercise you should be getting per week. I told you I was going to give you some more detailed information. It's 150 minutes of exercise per week. 150 minutes. That's 2 hours, 30 minutes of exercise per week. Now, what kind of exercise are we talking about? Low to moderate intensity exercises. Now, how do you know you are doing moderate intensity? It's you cannot sing. That's what I say. You cannot sing while doing this exercise. You would have to keep pausing, keep pausing, keep pausing. I don't want to say that you must be catching your breath because that can get to high intensity, but you will just notice that when doing this kind of exercise, you cannot sink easily. So that's how you know you are doing moderate level of exercise, 150 minutes. Okay? And so of course there are different classes of exercise. There's cardio, that's running, jogging, swimming, there's strength training, then I must mention that before you do an exercise, please stretch. Okay, it helps to reduce injuries. People say warm up, but I prefer to emphasize that this stretch is the exact kind of warm up that you want to do before exercises. Okay, stretch is the first thing. Stretch. The way you stretch normally, all right, nothing too special. And then go at your own pace. Don't try to match up with any other person, please. All right, go at your own pace. Whatever you can do is fine. Also, take a day off. You are not supposed to exercise every single day. You are likely going to cause burnout and then wear and tear and higher risk of injuries. So take a day off at least during the week from your exercise. Next slide. Okay, so a few special considerations for exercise. If you're trying to control your blood pressure, particular exercises you need to be looking to are brisk walking, dancing, and then resistance exercises. So brisk walking is just walking fast. And for blood pressure control, the advice is you want to do about 10 minutes per session. Okay, 10-15 minutes per session. You can do one in the morning, one at night. It's actually so much more effective than trying to do a long duration brisk walk. Okay, so 10-15 minutes per session, and that's why you can see in the combination I have here 20 minutes for 4 days. So that's 10 in the morning, 10 at night for 4 days, and then on the weekends you can just have a dancing session. Or when you go to church and they are doing praise and worship, you make sure you dance as much as possible. People will understand that what you are doing is exercise. It's part of it. Okay, so you do that on weekends. So these are some of the exercises that help with blood pressure control. Next slide. Okay, so wall push-ups, chest flies, these are exercises that also help. We call them resistance exercises. Resistance exercises. Okay, and you can see these people leaning on the wall. So they would lean on the wall and then push themselves back, lean in, push themselves back. That's how to do a wall push-up. Go to the next slide and we'll see the chest flies. Okay, so these are chest flies, and what this man is using is a band. It's a resistance band. All right, so he will just extend it and then bring it close together, extend it and then bring it close together. You can see my hand like that. That's how you do a chest fly. What I recommend, if you don't have this resistance band, get 2 bottles of water. Okay, depending on your capacity, you can fill them up completely or fill them just halfway. Okay, and then take your hands out, bring them together. So you are holding the 2 bottles of water, take your hands out, bring them together, take your hands out, bring them together. That's an easier way of doing chest flies at home if you don't have a resistance band. Next slide. Now we have special consideration for people trying to control their blood sugar. You see, we have this same brisk walking, but here's the difference. When trying to control your blood sugar, the brisk walking you want to do is shortly after each meal. So maybe 20 minutes after a meal, you do a 10-minute brisk walk. 10 minutes after lunch, 10-minute brisk walk. After dinner, 10-minute brisk walk. So unlike blood pressure where you can just do morning and evening, for blood sugar control, you want to focus on doing it right after you have eaten. It helps with insulin sensitivity, it helps to mop up sugar and all that. So it's very, very useful. Then, of course, for blood sugar control, strength training too helps with blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity. Okay. So example of strength training is like what I just showed you: the wall push-ups, your chest flies, and if you can, find weights to lift at your own pace. There are very, very light weights that you can easily lift. And then there's what we call the soleus push-up. Okay, the soleus push-up. It's a very simple exercise. You can go to the next slide so everybody can see what this soleus push-up looks like. And you can see they're just sitting down, but the heel, all right, the back of their legs, if you can see, the back of their legs are raised. So you raise it like that and then you bring it down. You raise it like that and then you bring it down. Okay, it's very useful. You can do that for up to 1 hour or 2 hours after eating. While you are seated doing whatever it is you are doing, you just keep doing that exercise. It's very useful for controlling your blood sugar. It's very simple exercise that actually helps. So that's the soleus push-up. Next slide. And then finally, we have weight loss special considerations. For weight loss, now we're not necessarily doing brisk walking. So you see, I told you that the same exercise was used in different formats depending on your goal. Now we're still talking about walking, but we're talking about long walks when you're trying to lose weight. Because you see, when you do high intensity brisk walking for a short period of time, you burn more of glucose, and what we're trying to do is burn fat. Okay, so instead of doing something short, doing a short duration exercise, you want to do something that is more long term, so you won't get tired easily. Okay, because your glucose stores will not just be depleted like that. Instead, your body will take from your fat stores for long duration exercises. So for the work you are doing for weight loss, 45 minutes to an hour, or if you're just starting, you can do 30 minutes. Okay, and you want to do this as much as possible. So a combination here is you can do a long walk for up to for 30 minutes for 3 days, and then you add that to your cardio. An example of cardio is what? Dancing, swimming, okay, marching in place. Although brisk walking can also be a form of cardio, but here's the problem: how many people can do brisk walking for 1 hour? It's not easy. Brisk walking, you are walking very fast. So it's not easy. So I did not include it in this kind of cardio for weight loss. But things that you can easily do for an hour, take a break, you dance, it's something that you can do much more easily. Okay. Of course, for weight loss, I must say that the most efficient step is diet, controlling what everything I said about food earlier is the most efficient for weight loss. You're trying to bring down your weight, diet is your number one. It is your number one strategy. I cannot emphasize that enough. Okay, next slide. And we are rounding up, and so it's important to note that a healthy life is not a destination. A lot of times people ask that, oh, so if I start doing this now, when will I stop? Or you see someone trying to lose weight and they're thinking, oh, I want to lose weight in 5 months, I want to lose weight in 3 months, I want to do this in, everybody's trying to give a timeline. The problem with that is when you get there, even if you achieve your goals, because you believe you arrived at your destination, you are not likely to continue all the things that took you there. You believe you've arrived, right? So that's not a good way to look at it. For some other people, they will do something that is so impractical, so strenuous, so stressful, and they know that they cannot keep this up for the next 2, 3 years. And so I always tell people, any lifestyle change, any wellness principle that you want to adopt, you need to be thinking long term. Can I do this for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years? I know someone who decided to cut down his sugar. So the guy decided that he will only be eating boiled plantain or unripe plantain. That's the only thing he was eating. And to be honest, he was trying to control his blood sugar, and it worked for like a month or 2 months. But after a while, the food started tasting like chaff, because how can you be eating the same boiled unripe plantain for 2 months and you will not get tired? So he ended up reverting to his other options of food, and I explained to him, you will have to take it as a holistic change. All right, nothing is an abomination except alcohol and smoking, of course, but every other thing must be added in the right amount. Again, balanced diet, right? There's a right proportion and in the right amount as a whole. So a healthy life is not a destination, it's a journey, and every single day, you will take a step. Either you are taking a step backwards or forward. Thank you very much, and I will now take any questions.